Welcome to the Raw Hidden Process Breaking Barriers on today. My name is Chastity, Sonier, and I am your host of this phenomenal segment, Breaking Barriers. Today, we will be talking about a very important factor that everybody needs to know and have information on. It's concerning life insurance and the importance of life insurance. Regardless if you are a strong woman or a strong male, you need to understand the reasons and why it is important for you as well as your family to invest in life insurance. Today, I am going to bring up a wonderful mentor of mine as well as friend, Sabrina. She is a life coach. She is a life insurance agency, and she's also a phenomenal woman. Hi, Sabrina. How are you today?
Hello, Chastity, and hello to your phenomenal viewers and listeners. I've been wanting to get on your show, so thank you.
Thank you for accepting the invite. I am very excited with this discussion today. And as I was telling you and telling the audience, it is very important for people to understand why they should purchase life insurance. Now, I did a little research before I give you the floor and for you to go a little bit more into why it's important for people to invest in life insurance for themselves as well as their family. What I have read on the importance of it is 1, paying off debt, 2, giving loved ones a financial future, 3, leaving an inheritance. That's interesting. 4, providing extra support through retirement. 5, protecting a business. 6, handling end of life expenses. 7, preparing for the unexpected. And last, 8, offering confidence. So those are generic things that people can know why insurance is very important to have. But I know that you are an educator, a steward in this. So I want to give you a platform because she is my life insurance agent and she has educated me and brought my awareness even more, even though I'm in the insurance industry. But hey, you don't know everything, even if that is your niche. You need people to educate you more because terms and conditions change yearly. And what's going on in the marketplace change, and people need to be educated on there. So Sabrina, I want you to just give the knowledge and insight on this matter. Take it away.
Well, Chastity, first of all, I want to thank you for doing your homework because I wish I had known that 15, 20 years ago. And it's really something that I think should be taught in schools. You know, when I went to school, they taught general math. We talked about a few finances. When I was getting my degree, I actually had to take a couple finance classes. I learned about stocks and mutual funds, but nobody talked about life insurance.
Right.
Now, there are principles associated with it that we really need to have that ground floor, just very basic understanding before we even get our first jobs. Now, I'm going to go back to something for a minute, and then I'm going to share my story. Most of the time when we get hired, if you work for an employer, they offer you life insurance and you think it's a nice little perk. It's like getting your health insurance. That's a nice little perk. And you just readily take whatever they offer you. It comes out of your check. You don't think about it. The only thing I know when I got my life insurance is, well, you know, it's enough to bury me and I can leave a few $1,000s to my husband or kid. And that was the end of it. I really didn't think about the purpose of life insurance and what it's supposed to do and how it protects my estate because I was not educated on that. So I'm going to go back just a little bit because I want to have a little chat with your viewers. I'm a corporate woman. I managed corporations pretty much all my life, and I was always protected with corporate benefits. And I felt secure. And I felt like at some point in time, you know, I'll be out on my own, but never once did I think I was going to lose my life insurance. I mean, the older you get, the more you need it, obviously. So here I am last year in the pandemic. And my job was swallowed up by the pandemic and I had to be out on my own. And at that very moment, I realized I have lost my health insurance, my life insurance, and the ability to continue to prepare myself for retirement. I didn't have a safety net in place. I didn't have a plan. Now, if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, imagine being in your 60s and you're trying to secure life insurance. I mean, you don't look too good on paper health-wise unless you've been taking care of yourself, right? So it's a bit of a challenge, but I was able to do it. But during that journey, I learned, Sabrina, you love people, you love the community, you love to educate. Let this be your message. Let this be how you help and support people. So rather than jumping back into employment, I decided to do something really hard. Now, you think passing a state exam for life insurance is hard? You know what's really hard is getting people's attention, getting them to realize the value of talking about finances and money and life insurance, because we don't take ownership of it.
Right.
We leave it in the hands of mama. Now, my mother back in our household, I don't know about your mom. My mom's a little older than your mom, but she had this big white Bible. And inside this Bible, she had everybody's life insurance policy in that Bible. Mama could go to that Bible and she bought life insurance on us even when I was grown and married. And my mom still had a life insurance policy on me. But you know, I didn't carry that torch. I just took what was handed to me at work and I put that in somebody else's hands. And our mothers knew, our parents knew the value of life insurance. We just kind of got lost. You know, sometimes you know a lot about a lot of things, but not enough about some things. So I thought about my mom. She still has a policy on us. She was smart. And so now I've made sure that my family, my daughter has it, my son has it, I have it, my grandkids have life insurance, their babies. I know you do too, Chastity. Their babies. So yes, things happen to children. Things happen to children. If you don't believe that, pick up any newspaper. An 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, an infant lose their life. Things happen. We don't like to think about that, but wouldn't you like to be prepared? So what I want to do in a loving, kind way is to take you all from, I thought I was covered. I thought I had enough. I thought this wasn't going to end. As women, I thought my husband was taking care of that.
Right.
I thought he had it. And I still talk to women today. So well, my husband knows all that. I want to take you from I thought to I know. I know I'm covered. I know my children are covered. I know my home is protected. I know my debt will be paid off. I know I'm going to have income should something happen. So going from I thought and the unknown to I got this, I know this, and we're covered. And sometimes, ladies, you know, we talk about empowerment. We have to step up to the plate and be that person. So empowerment, Chastity, is not wearing your highest heels or your cutest skirt and you're being a fashionista. Empowerment means getting your arms around your household, right. Taking your hand, they call it handling your business. Men say it all the time, handle your business. Well, women, we have to handle our business too. And we cannot leave that into the hands of complete strangers, that being your employer, or leave it into the hands of a spouse, whether you're male or female or a significant other. We need to know. And we need to know where the policy is should something happen. Where is that policy? I've seen celebrities, you've seen it, we can't find their policy, we can't find their will. Well, why is that? Why don't you know?
Right.
Well, I'm going to teach you the value of not only knowing, but also knowing where to find that information and who to call in case something happens. So, Chastity, may I start at the very beginning? I don't know if we do breaks here. Can I start at the very beginning of how to start this process?
Yes, we do breaks, but yes, you can start.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. Chastity kind of explained the components of life insurance. Let's start with debt. I want to talk about debt for a minute. We all owe somebody something. Now, there are some people that are debt free, and we want to rub their heads. How did you become debt free? And tell us about it. But let's think about the debt that you have for a minute. If something happens to your income where it's disrupted, let's say you have a disability, you hurt your back, you can't go to work. Who's had to go without a paycheck for a week? I know I have. Something happened maybe a couple of days. Maybe they didn't bring you back to work. If you're an hourly employee, you missed 3 days. Boy, that hurts when you don't get a full paycheck, because you know what? You still got the same amount of bills. The bills don't shrink because you can't bring the income in. So let's think about this for a minute. If something happened to you, whether you become disabled, you have a disability, whether it's for a month, 2 months, 3 months, a year, who's going to pay your bills? Who's going to pay your debt? Or let's say there's loss of life. Let's say this is a household of 2 incomes,
Right.
and one of the income providers loses their life. Now you got 2 people worth of debt, but now you got 1 people worth of income. How are we going to handle that? Let's think about some reasons why we get into debt, because this is education. This is part of what I do. I'm here to help you mentally manage that. People get into debt because sometimes they can't afford an item. They get caught up in going with girlfriends and everybody's buying heels and shoes. So you just jump in and buy 3 or 4 pair. You don't need them, but you just got caught up in the moment. Maybe you need transportation. Maybe there's a car involved. Maybe you got to have that transportation. Maybe if you're an entrepreneur and you got to buy some educational materials for yourself, maybe you're writing a book, you're going to invest in yourself. There's all kind of reasons why we incur debt. Peer pressure. Sometimes we just think, hey, I'll pay for this later. Later never comes. I've actually told myself, look, this is only $100. I'll pay for it out of my next check. Well, my next check comes up. I don't want to give my $100 to that, right? I need it for something else. And so I'll just make payments. And next thing you know, you're 2 years into paying $100 off, paying the minimum payment. So first of all, let's work on changing our behavior and understanding the responsibility of debt. If you are in a couple type relationship, I want you to look at the laws of your state. I know in Florida, it's a community state. So if my husband has debt, it's my debt too. You know, that's just how the law looks at it. So if he runs up a tab and something happens to him, more than likely I'm going to be responsible for that, because, you know, we are legally married to each other. So understand, you can't hide from it. They will find you. They will hunt you down, and they can actually garnish your paycheck, by the way. I worked with someone where his paycheck was garnished. He fought it, went to court. Judge said, no, you're responsible. You got to pay. So just understand that. So life insurance can take care of that debt. See, we don't think about that. So Chastity, if something happens to me and I can't work, I have a disability. If I have the right policy structure,
Right,
I can draw on that policy. And if approved, because of my particular condition, a critical, chronic, terminal illness, or a disability, my policy will pay me, and it's not a loan. And I can actually repay that debt either while I'm recovering. I could pay lump sum. I can pay on it, but it takes that burden and that pressure off of me. And I know husbands, most men don't want their wives to have to worry about that. That's the provider inside it. I've heard husbands say, I don't want my woman to have to worry about that. I got her taken care of. Something happens to me, she won't have to worry. But remember, you've got to know. Let's go from I thought he had it covered to I know he's got it covered, even if you have to take out your own policy. If he hasn't done that for you, or if she hasn't done that for you, do it for yourself. Do it for yourself. So we've talked about the debt portion. So now let's move on to something that's very, very critical. Now, what I'm doing is taking you through something called the DIME theory. That's D-I-M-E. So we have talked about the D. First of all, minimize your debt. Second of all, have a place. I call it your third bank account. Have that third bank account set up in place that can manage and take care of that debt, and in some cases, completely pay it off. And that would be the proper life insurance policy. So you want to have that factored in. By the way, when you get life insurance at work, it's not to pay off your debt. It's really just a burial and leave a few $1,000s to someone. But normally, the type of life insurance we get at work, which is term, is not enough to pay off your debt, give you a funeral if need be, or take care of you if you're still living, but you have a critical or chronic illness or disability. So it's just not structured that way. Now let's talk about the I in DIME. That's income. We work hard for our income. But what happens if you can't bring that income in? So I will tell you that happened to my husband and so you think, oh, that only happens to old people or some, I don't have a disease. Well, my first husband was only in his 20s. I think he was 25, and he was playing basketball and he turned the wrong way. Anyway, he blew his knee out and he had to have a complete knee replacement surgery at age 25. That's something they do on people in their 50s and 60s. Well, during that time, he couldn't work. For 3 to 4 months, he couldn't work. That means he couldn't bring in an income, no income from him. And we had to borrow money from his parents and my parents so we could just have food on the table and pay our house note. We were not prepared. We did not have a policy in place that would pay him because he was unable to draw income. And I remember to this day, and I'll never forget how much I thanked them. They're writing $400 and $500 checks a piece every month just so we could survive. So my question to you ladies and gents out there, if you lose your ability to earn your income, regardless of what age, where's that money going to come from? Because you still gotta eat. So let's think about income for a minute. We ask you to think about 10 years worth of income. And why 10 years? Well, statistics show that it takes about 10 years to recover from loss of an income. And I don't know if anybody's ever had a financial setback. It's usually taken me a year to 2 years to get back on my feet. I know when I went through divorce, I had a financial setback. I didn't have as much money coming in. And it took me a good 2 years to build up my reserves again and to go back to having life as usual. And if you're raising children, add 10 years to their life. If you got a 2-year-old, she's only 12 or he's only 12. You still got a lot of responsibility there. So I'm going to ask you to think about 10 years worth of income and give me that number. So this is where a lot of people get confused, Chastity. They go, and they usually give me 50,000 or 60,000. No, that's 1 year's worth of income. We want 10. Put a 0 behind that. Now that becomes 300,000 or 600,000, depending on how much money you make. And I ask people, do you have 10 years worth of income saved up somewhere in case something happens to you and you're still living, or someone still has to raise your children 10 years from now? Are you prepared? And this is where I get the biggest eye opener during my financial education session. I say, you don't have to answer that. That's a rhetorical question. But are you prepared to still live and exist if something happens to you? Because income requires us to work. It is something that we do by the hour. Maybe we're salaried. Maybe we are entrepreneurs and we have a business. But if you cannot show up for that business, there is no income. Now, what does the income do? That has nothing to do with your debt. Think about how you use your income. That's gas in your car. That's your car insurance. That's your clothes. That's your food. We did the math. Well, when we were a family, we were spending about $800 a month when there was my husband, myself, and my 2 kids at home. That was about $200 a week. That was who knows what groceries now? Who knows? But that was just meat, toiletries, cleaning supplies, laundry. That was a family of 4, and that was $800 a month. So look at your food bill, and that didn't even include eating out. So what does it cost you to live? That's just where your income's going. It's for those very basic things. So I want you to think about the necessity of having your income covered in case something happens to you. Most people, Chastity, they associate life insurance with death. They don't associate it with living. There are policies out there called living benefits where you can draw your missing income from your life insurance policy and it's not a loan. So that's the biggest education there, is getting the right policy type structure where when you have a qualified incident, again, let's just tell you, a qualified incident, it doesn't cover you if you just decide you don't want to work. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a qualified disability, a critical chronic, or terminal illness. And you can draw on your life insurance policy, in most cases up to 80 to 90%, depending on the company. But that's living benefits, and that's inside of a term policy. We're not talking about a whole life policy. We're not talking about cash value where they lend you the money and you have to pay it back with interest. We're talking about scot-free. Take that right off of my policy, because what we want to do is we want to maximize that third bank account. We don't want any more loans. We just got through talking about debt. We don't want to incur any more debt. We don't want to take a loan from our credit card. We don't want to take a loan from cash value. We want solid money. We don't want to borrow from mom, sister, brother, aunt, dad. We want to know that we can take care of our family and our children. So your income is critical. Again, 10 years worth of income, write that down. And when you do, think about who that's going to take care of. So now the next thing we're going to talk about is mortgage. A lot of people own and a lot of people rent. Don't get caught up in the M for mortgage. This is basically keeping a roof over your head. So if you don't own, you rent, you are paying somebody something every month to be able to turn that knob and walk inside, whether it's an apartment or a house. So if something happens to you and you're not able to draw that income in, or maybe you've lost one of the income earners, how are you still going to continue to pay that rent or mortgage? Where's that money going to come from? And in most cases, rent, even in, what they call substandard, low-income housing projects, whatever, they're still charging $700 to $1,000 a month. And I just don't even know how these people do it. I just don't know. But $700 to $1,000, $2,000 a month in rent, that's just rent. And we know mortgage payments can be around $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, depending. So I ask you to write your mortgage balance down. What do you owe? How much is left on your mortgage? So that in the event that you can't work to bring that income in the event that you've lost one of the income earners in your household, you got your life insurance policy, as long as that person was the insured person. So my life insurance policy will pay my mortgage off. So my family, my spouse, they don't have to worry about trying to keep the house because my income's gone. See, it's planning, handling your business. Again, with rent, you want to make sure that the person that you leave behind, especially if you have children, you don't want your kids on the street or to have to go live with aunt or uncle. You want your kids to be taken care of and still have that roof over your head. So it's the responsible thing to do. So in the event that you're renting, I ask you to write down 10 years worth of rent. Again, 10 years worth of income, 10 years worth of rent. And normally that's at least $100,000. That's just under $1,000 a month. So now you've got your debt, you've got your income that's well over, could be 300, 400,000. You've got your, just keeping a roof over your head, your rent or your mortgage, that could be at least $100,000. Now you're looking at these numbers and they're starting to stare you in your face. And you're thinking about the life insurance you have at work and you're starting to see, this ain't looking too good, right? Yeah, I thought I was covered. So now we haven't even begun to talk about retiring yet. So let's go to the E. Let's go to the E and dime. So the E stands for education. I want to talk to the parents right now. What is your response? The children didn't ask to be born. You brought them into the world. So what is your plan for your children? Years ago, parents planned college. That may not be the case. A lot of our children are choosing entrepreneurship, and that's fine. But Chastity, you and I both know that entrepreneurship is not free either.
No, it's not.
Chastity and I, we have thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars invested in writing books, invested in training, invested in platforms, all types of things. So entrepreneurship, and you've got to have that reality check with your children. And as parents, be responsible. So we had this conversation, my first husband and I, about our children's future. We decided on college. Of course, that was many years ago. And in Florida, they have something called Florida prepaid. So when our kids graduated high school, both of them had a 4-year university paid for. We paid $62 a month for my daughter and $72 a month for my son. I remember that to this day, every month. It seemed like a lot of money back then. But we only end up paying about $8,000 per child. That's nothing. That's nothing to get a $70,000 full ride on college. It's nothing. So we did the right thing, a 4-year university. We did the right thing because we thought ahead. So this is the moment that I talk to parents. That I have had some parents say, that's on them. I'm not doing anything for them. They're going to have to figure that out on their own. Well, that's fine. Then I say next to letter E, put a 0. But if you're one of those parents that want to participate in your child's future, then you may want to take a good hard look at that and say to yourself, if I'm gone, if my husband's gone, what can I do to make sure they either are able to start a business or get that college education? And whatever that number is, put that next to the letter E. And if you just are confused, you just don't know, put $10,000 a child. Because I guarantee you're going to help them get a car, a cell phone. You're going to help them do something, and it adds up. Most parents don't realize they probably invest about $10,000 per child over a period of time. So I tell them to do that. So now we're at the end of this DIME, this DIME, and I ask couples, singles, whoever I'm talking to add that up. Now, I generally have a pretty good idea of what those numbers look like because, you do this long enough, you kind of get it. They usually end up with anywhere from $350,000 to $1 million plus in life insurance needs. And then I ask them, so are you overinsured or underinsured? I would say 80% of the people are underinsured.
Right.
Now, what I didn't do is sit there and tell them how much life insurance they need. See, that's selling. Educating is when you help the community determine how much they need and why they need it. That's where the education comes in. I never put pen to paper. I never gave them any numbers. And I said, now these are your numbers. This is what your family, this is what your household needs. And at that very moment, they're like, wow. Now, I will say the other 20%, someone educated them, talked to them, and they're adequately insured. I have talked to some people that are overinsured. And that's even important for them to know. They have too much life insurance. So maybe you want to take some of those funds and divert them to some investments if you're overinsured, or unless you just want to leave a lot of money to people. And if that's what you want to do, that's good. But I'm here to educate you. So now we're at the end of this dime and you realize you're underinsured and you're working. Your employer is not going to give you the option to buy more life insurance. They're only going to allow you to buy probably based on your income and level at the company. So what do? You have to acquire life insurance outside of your employer. And that's probably a good thing to do because should your employment end by their hand or your own hand, you're going to have to get life insurance or else you're going to be exposed. Like I did. I worked, gave this whole career and no life insurance. I had to acquire it. If I had been smart enough, I'd have let them ride side by side. I would have had my life insurance at work and my own separate policy, handling my business. So then the next question is, Chastity, well then, I don't know how to buy life insurance. I already got, they payroll deducted. I don't even know how much I'm paying. Most of them don't even know how much they're paying at work. They have no idea. So here's a clue. Term life insurance is what's offered for most companies. And why is that? That's because your employer knows the deal on life insurance. They're offering you something that covers life. They're not offering you any investments. They're offering you life insurance. So they already got this figured out. So we talk about how do you buy life insurance? Well, you need to understand the different types. So there's term, there's universal life, there's whole life, right? Variable universal life. There's all these different types. And with that comes different monthly payments. So if you don't understand, reach out to me after. It gets a little deep. I can explain to you the different types. But what I'm going to hang my hat on is your employer has got it figured out. They don't offer those other types of policies because they're offering you life insurance. When you buy anything outside of term, universal, whole life, variable, you are now buying life insurance and investments. You may not know that, but you're buying life insurance and investments. So understand that. And if you don't, if you currently have a life insurance policy and you have something else outside of term and you want to know what does that monthly premium cover? So many people don't know that they sign up for investments. The other side to those investments are you have no say so as to where that money is being invested.
Right.
You also don't get all of the interest that's being earned on it. So normally what happens in a whole life policy, we're just going to talk about that one for a minute. This is just education. The first 3 years that you're into a whole life policy does not go into this thing called cash value. That's where you're banking money. So a lot of people get into whole life policies because they know they're buying life insurance. They don't quite understand this cash value thing, but all they know is you're going to give me I'm getting some money set aside, right? But you just don't have all the details.
Right.
The first 3 years of the life of that policy, there is no money going into that cash value. That goes out it's paid in commissions to the agent and to the life insurance company. So if you're paying $200 a month for the first 3 years, none of that money's going into your little kitty, I call it, your cash value. Now you want to check with your life insurance company. Make sure you verify this. So that's my disclaimer. Make sure if you have a whole life policy, I encourage you to call your life insurance company and ask them, at what point does my money start going into my cash value account? By law, they have to tell you that. So for 3 years, approximately, you've paid into this. So if you decide to cancel that policy, they owe you nothing. That first year, that second year, that third year, well, wait a minute, I was paying you $200 a month. Well, yeah, you didn't ask us. So I'm just educating you now. Hey, send me a check for $200 a month. I love it. I don't have to pay you back either. But remember, this is educating because what happens is they didn't understand they were buying life insurance and investments. They didn't understand that. So now you know where your money's going into investments. The life insurance company will start to pay you a little bit of interest on that money, by the way. So that's somewhere around that third year, you start to see some of that money go in and they'll pay you interest, but maybe only 1 or 2%. Now they may be investing that, making 12, 20, 30%.
Right.
Well, you could go invest that money yourself and make 20%. So you're allowing them to invest your money and make big returns on it, and they give you a small return.
Basically, they're making a profit, a bigger profit than you would be making.
A huge, probably like 90 to 10, 99 to 1. Yeah. They're giving you one when you could have that money working for yourself. Maybe you didn't understand it. Now, here's the other piece to the whole life policy. The whole life is that you can borrow from that, which is very attractive because we had a whole life policy at one point, but we weren't educated. It's okay if you know and you go into it with your eyes open. That's all we want to do is we want you to know this is education. You can borrow from that cash value. It's your money, right? You've been banking it after that third year, but they would charge you interest. They're going to charge you a penalty to borrow your money. Well, why is that? Well, remember, that's an investment account. So if you take that money out, they can no longer invest it.
It's almost like, look at it as you're talking, like for people who might not understand life insurance, but if you have a 401k, that's an investment. You have to pay yourself back over time, but think about it like in that aspect.
So the difference with the 401k, you're right about something. With your 401k, you get to pick where you want your money invested. Okay, you choose. They ask you, most people don't know. I kind of copied off of somebody else because I didn't know where you got your money. You know how you have that discussion at work. Number two, when you borrow from your 401k and they charge you interest, you're paying your interest back to yourself. You're borrowing money from yourself, and when you pay that back, that interest that they charged you also goes into your account. So I did that many times. That's how I bought my cars and stuff. I borrowed money. Why go take out a car loan and pay the bank 8% interest or 4% interest when you can borrow from your 401k and pay yourself the interest? That usually ends up being a couple $1,000s. So you bank it. But with life insurance, it's not the case. That interest does not get paid back to you. It gets paid to the life insurance company. You never get that interest back. That's just the arrangement. I didn't set it up. So if you borrow your own money, let's say they charge you 8% interest, that 8% goes to the life insurance company. It does not go back into your cash value. Now, if you don't pay that loan back, they will take it off of your face value of your policy. That's kind of confusing to people because they go, well, wait, but I had $50,000 sitting in this cash value. I drew out 10, so I should have 40,000 left. But they're really going to take that 10,000 off the face value of your policy. So if you had a $100,000 policy, now you got $90,000 because you didn't pay the loan back. Yeah, a little confusing there, but those are the rules. So understand the rules. This is just education. I'm just here to share the knowledge, the things that I went and got my license for and that I understand. But I'm going to always say, check with your life insurance company. Okay. Now let's talk about that cash value again, because this gets really confusing because people say, well, I'm saving for my kids' college. And, you know, if I can borrow money to replace, well, you can do all those things. However, remember, if you pull any of that money out, or you pull all of it out. If you pull it all out, they're going to reduce your death benefit. You have no death benefit if you take it all out. But you say, I've been paying my bills, or I never missed a payment, but I need that 50,000 sitting in there. And the life insurance company says, okay, well, we'll pay you. But now you have no life insurance policy. If you die, we can't pay your beneficiaries anything. Wow. And they get to charge you a maintenance fee. So that could be up to 50%. I'm not saying it is. Check with your life insurance company. Dave Ramsey, Suze Orman have some beautiful videos out there that talk about what happens when you want to cash your policy out. So we'll talk more about this when we come back from break.
Yes. Thank you for this information. It's very awesome and informative. And we are about to go on the break, and she's going to talk a little bit more about insurance policies. And then we're going to wrap it up with talking about women empowerment, because this show is about women empowerment, and give some tips to our audience, our women, our bold women, our fierce women that are out there, that how they can continue to be encouraged in whatever of their desires of their heart. Stay tuned. welcome back, my real and amazing warriors. We're about to continue to talk about why life insurance is important. And I'm going to give the platform back to Sabrina to continue to be informative and educate us on why life insurance is important. So, Sabrina, take it away.
Thank you. I want to go back and cover one more important thing about cash value. This is one of probably the most important things you need to understand is that the person that is insured, when they die, the cash value stays with the life insurance company. Now, this is really a hard pill to swallow, and most people just don't understand it. So, let's say your mother passes away, she's insured, she's got $50,000 sitting in her cash value fund because you see it on the amortization schedule, and she had maybe $200,000 in life insurance. So you're thinking you're going to get 200,000 plus the 50,000. You go into the life insurance company, you present that policy, and they say, we're going to cut you a check for 200,000. You say, well, what happened to the 50,000? No, that you don't get that. That stays here. But we're going to honor the policy and pay the face value. Well, people don't understand that. They're confused. Like, but she had this money. No. And they tell you all kinds of stuff. And the main thing is you do not get to take that cash value with you.
Now, Sabrina, explain that again.
I'm going to say that again.
Why they don't get that excess of money.
Well, this is what they will tell you is that we were using this cash value to maintain your policy. So it's used to maintain your policy. Well, with a term policy, if you bought a term policy for 200,000, when that person dies, you get 200,000. There was no maintenance in there. But with the cash value, it's a little bit different. And they will tell you we use it to maintain. People get very upset because they thought they were stashing some cash. Well, you were stashing cash to borrow against. But remember, that was an investment account. That was not a life insurance account. It was an investment account. Don't confuse the two. So if anybody, I'm going to encourage your listeners to reach out to me. I will be happy to send you a video from Suze Orman. And she does not hold her tongue back about that. She will explain to you what happens to that cash value, but it is not yours to keep. So I'm going to tell you this one other thing, then we're going to get off this bandwagon. I've had some people say, well, I don't believe you. I cashed in my father's life insurance and they gave it to me. And I said, well, that's fine. But they didn't give it all to you. You might have cashed it in. But did you ask them how much was in there? And then did you ask them how much am I getting? So all too often people get excited because they got 5,000, 10,000, not knowing they might have had $20,000, $30,000 sitting in there. So look, I'm empowering you. We're going to talk about empowerment for a minute. Become educated, learn all of the facts, just know all of the details and be well informed before you make those types of decisions. And understanding that money's sitting there to be borrowed against, but you can't take it with, when you heard you can't take it with you when you die, you cannot take it with you when you die. It will not go to your beneficiary. It will not go to your estate. Just understand that. If you want to start an investment account, go start an investment account, buy your life insurance, and then go do your investing. With your investment accounts that you start on your own, you get complete control of that. You get to say who's beneficiary of that. You get to say what happens to that money. You get to choose where it gets invested. You get to talk to people every day or as often as you like about your investments. But with a whole life policy, you don't get those choices. So you can end up losing.
Now, I do want you to hit on just real quick, because we talked about whole life policy, and I really think people need to understand whole life policy because it's more in detail than a term policy.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can give in very short time the pros and cons of a term policy for them.
Okay, so people get caught up and say, well, term, doesn't it? That only goes for, so a term means it covers a certain term, maybe 30 years. Okay, 30 years. Whole life means it covers you to your whole life. And people get, oh, I want to be covered until I'm 100,000. But what happens is you have something called decreasing responsibility. As you get older, the less financial responsibility you have. So you don't need all of that. You have to do a financial review. So let's say your mother, your family, let's say your family requires you to have $500,000. Remember, we just did this dime with you. But now you're 80. You have no kids at home. Your house is paid off. Your car is paid off. You probably only need $100,000 worth of life insurance. So do you need a whole to carry you to the end of your life? And this is where, talking to a person who's educated in finances can help you navigate through that. This is something that you continue to review. If your finances are going up as you age, you need some help. You should have decreasing financial response. Things should be getting paid off.
Right.
So that's the thing with whole life. And then you can buy it for another 10, 15, 20, 30 years, but you probably won't need as much. The older you get, the less you need.
Agreed.
So that's what we want to cover. The older you get, the less. So I think that just understand, and then term, typically, just to throw some numbers out there. Now, this is going back to 2014. I'm not going to give you current numbers because I don't want anybody to say, she said I can get it. But all insurance, whether it's whole life or term, is sold by the thousand. Term life insurance back in 2014 was around $2 a thousand. Whole life was around $20 a thousand. Both of them are going to pay you $1,000 if you die. One's $20, one's $2 a year for the whole year. Which one would you want to pay? See, so that $18, that extra $18 is going into that investment account, of which you won't get if you die. We already covered all of that. We're not going to go back over it. That's a huge difference. $2 for the whole year and $20 for the whole year. And you don't even understand where that money's going. You have no control over it. So just become educated. And the last little piece, we already talked about it, was that living benefits. If you need that third bank account, if you need that pot of money, look at the living benefits. A standard term policy will pay your beneficiary a sum of money if you die. That could be to pay off the debt, the house, the car. A living benefits policy will pay you while you're still living if a few conditions happen to you. That would be critical, chronic, maybe you got a cancer. We just had a lady who had stage 4 breast cancer. She had a $500,000 policy. Life insurance company gave her $360,000 off of her policy. Not alone. She took $250,000 and invested it so she could leave a legacy for her kids. The rest of it she used to pay her medical bills. Smart move. But that's not alone. Now, if she had a whole life policy, she would have had to have borrowed that money and pay interest. And if she took it all, she would have lost her death benefits. With the term policy, you don't lose your death benefit. Now it gets reduced because they just gave you the money off of the policy, but they won't let you take any more than they'll leave at least 10% there. So you will have something, if there's loss of life. So that's the difference. That living benefits policy. And again, I can explain more of you. We just have a few minutes. You want to go into women's empowerment?
Yes. You were very educational and informative to the viewers. And again, if you have any questions, please reach out to Sabrina on our social media platforms, LinkedIn. She is very informative there. She can break it down to you like you are an elementary student and you'd be like, aha. But going from empowerment, educating, let's talk about the life coaching aspect of our business.
Yes, I love it.
And you and I, we talk on a regular via text, via phone, etc. on how can we continue this movement? How can we continue to break barriers and break ceilings for women to basically prosper and engage? If you could give some tips for women that are currently they're entrepreneurs, as well as potential entrepreneurs, women that wants to step into their arena of entrepreneurship, how do you go about and how do you start to be successful in empowering whatever their niche might be?
It's pretty simple. If you really want to embrace empowerment and entrepreneurship and all of those things, then open doors for other people. Open doors. Now, I'm not saying open a door so you can run through it. I mean, open the door for your sister. Open the door for another female. A lot of times people get caught. I'm not going to tell her about how I save money here. I ain't going to tell her about my publisher. I'm not going to tell her about I got on this podcast. I ain't going to tell her about that. Well, Chastity knows me to be just the opposite. I have called Chastity, sent her a text, say, hey, you want to be on this podcast? You want this interview? You want to be on that? You want to be in a magazine? I have opened doors. So if you really want to live the life of empowerment, be the one that opens the door and lets somebody else walk in.
And see,
Because
the key, I'm sorry, the key about that, when you open the door for others, and let's just use Sabrina and Chastity relationship, she has opened up a lot of doors for me. And I am very much appreciative of her for that. But I've also, if somebody's talking about life insurance or, hey, you need to connect with Sabrina on this. Sabrina is good with this. Please, and it goes both ways, and it's a relationship. And that's how you empower women, other women, is building relationships with no strings attached and no alternative motive and not being vindictive.
You know, Chastity, I'm so glad you said that. Chastity and I, we have this revolving door, and she's right. She has called me. I didn't ask for this interview. She offered it to me. We do for each other. Now, if a sister, fellow female, is opening a door for you, don't just turn around and say thank you and go on through. You open doors for her too. And I have had people, I've opened doors for them, never seen them again. Oh, thank you. They go on and their platform is great, but they haven't looked back to see how they can open doors for me. I don't expect that, but you know, true entrepreneurship means that you help other women, not just yourself. Now, maybe directly you can't help me, but indirectly, maybe you can. Maybe you know an aunt, an uncle, a sister, a brother, or an organization. For instance, I was talking to a friend of mine. She's got her life insurance covered, but she's a member of this fraternity group. And she says, hey, Sabrina, I'm going to get you in front of these ladies and do this life insurance education. They need to hear this. I love the way you did this. She did just that, and I'm going to be there. So it doesn't mean money has to change hands. It just means that you help elevate them also.
Right.
You open doors, you return the favor, and then, you know, most importantly, say thank you. Say thank you. When's the last time you said thank you to someone? Call them on the phone. Send them a text. What about we put everything on social media? Why don't you thank them on social media? I want to thank Chastity for this. I want to thank Sabrina for that. I want to thank Susan for this. What about acknowledging how you got there? So one of the ladies we were talking to this morning, she says, you know, I've heard women say, we're just going to talk about the women for a minute because it is women's empowerment. Oh, I'm all about women's empowerment. But they talk about you. They slam you. They criticize you. They're sharp with you. They're rusty with you. You know, they get a little tight with you. That's not women's empowerment. That's that cattiness, whatever you want to call it, which has no room in my life because I don't do that. Everybody in my network's friendly. And we all work together. And if I get a little wind of that, that's not for me. I can't have you like that in this network because I'm trusting you with the people I've built a relationship with. I'm entrusting. It's like, Chastity, you have a daughter. Would you just take your daughter to anybody and have them babysit your child? Would you do that?
No.
You're very particular, right?
Yeah.
You're very particular about who watches your child. So it's the same way in our network. I'm very particular about my network. Don't abuse my network.
Right.
Don't do that. And I'm very protective, but consequently, you're also in my network, and I'm going to protect you too.
Right.
I'm going to mention a guy. His name is Gary Barnes. I don't know if Gary's going to hear this or not, but Gary says, Sabrina, once you're in my network, you're like family. You're family to me. He says, and don't mess with my family.
There you go.
That's what he told me. Don't mess with my family. So I'm the same way. Empowerment is helping, not hurting, and supporting, not backbiting.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Sabrina, thank you. Thank you for coming onto the show and basically providing insight and knowledge to the audience, to my audience. I really appreciate you, and I want you back on so we can discuss other topics and viewpoints. So, Everybody, thank you for participating on today, listening. Please remember to like, share, like, share, like, share. And if you have any questions or concerned about anything that was talked about on today, please again reach out to Sabrina. She will help you and she will educate you on what you need to do for your life. Now, again, I want to thank my Facebook family, my social media family, my YouTube family for participating. Remember, ladies, it is all about bossing up, showing up, and executing that S on your chest. Now, that S on your chest does not mean that you are a superwoman, because we are not. It's just being super smart, just being smart. Until next time, remember, sometimes you have to ignite and be passionate with yourself in order to ignite the success in your life. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And until next time.